Actually, again, as a liberal politologist, I want to greet my viewers with now message of political analysis and kind of commentaries on the theme of domestic American politics and especially politics of Barack Obama to implement healthcare reform, to bring healthcare to 36 million Americans who are without healthcare. Actually, I'm happy that President Obama is likely to sign democratic healthcare legislation, which has been approved by 60% of U.S. Congress, actually most Democrats, about though 54 Republicans actually sided with Democrats during the U.S. House of Representatives voting for the healthcare legislation, actually, and only 18 Democrats voted against this healthcare reform legislation in the House of U.S. House of Representatives last year. And I believe that this legislation should be signed by President Obama as soon as possible, in spite of the Democrats losing 60 votes. Only one vote. They lost only one vote, but was process of imperialism, where actually in CNN and some Russian American RTN news actually were lying about that Democrats losing majority. Democrats didn't lose majority of 59% of ballots in 100 votes thrown U.S. Senate. We actually still have simple majority of 59 votes, which voted for healthcare, to approve healthcare legislation, actually, and even we didn't cover willful cases of abortion, to satisfy some conservative Democrats like Senator Nelson from Nebraska. And I believe that actually the statement of U.S. President Barack Obama says he loved us all, during his stomp out in Henderson, Nevada. Just another time suppose the idea that President Barack Obama is engaged in sometimes in inane demagoguery. He doesn't promise so far to raise minimum wage, to boost corporate profits or profits of workers, to fight depression. He doesn't promise actually to so far to sign amnesty for illegal aliens bill. Instead, he told the public to floss their teeth, kind of phrase. And I believe it sounded like derision, and I believe that the government regulation, a major instrument in bringing U.S. economy to better shape. Also, as for instance, if we take the matter of cattle feed is very important in order for consumers to have, American consumers to have tasty food. If, let's say, cattle feed is high quality, and for instance, it is whole grain or kind of healthier kind of corn stems and stuff like that, cattle will actually will be highly productive, and its meat will be tasty. But if, let's say, the government doesn't enforce the regulation on cattle feed and doesn't make farmers feed the cattle and poultry with whole grain food or healthy and high quality cattle feed, consumers will encounter low quality produce. It will be untasty. So therefore, Americans should have the choice, make a conscious choice between tasty food and government regulation and untasty food, and no government regulation whatsoever, local government regulation. So if we are gonna control technological procedures and technological processes to produce food and drink, for instance, FDA controls food and drink quality and its consistency of food and drink, because otherwise food and drink would be unsafe and would contain too much unhealthy stuff that would might cause serious health dangers and health damage to one's health outright. Then actually I want to give another issue, give coverage, to that issue of suicidal pilot, software engineer from Texas who attacked the IRS building and slammed his plane, his small plane, into IRS building, causing fire. I believe it very much resembled number one attacks of Al-Qaeda suicidal terrorists that yielded Boeing jets as a weapon of suicidal attacks. And I believe it's still the software engineer might be as well a narco-mobster who burned down his own house before the suicidal attack using a small plane, and actually was probably motivated by the same very reason of homopathy and psychopathic impulses as number one Arab terrorists, Arab narco traffickers led by Mohammed Atta were actually. His motives were actually with homopathy and homopathic related hatred. His motive was hatred against the government, anti-government sentiment was pushed by American right-wingers, by Republicans, who says they won't let the government in, won't let the government control the economy, and they actually push anti-government sentiment where they live luscious lives, on that royal government wages of about 170,000 a year, practically rob the federal treasury, and they have no remorse about it, probably none whatsoever either. And I believe that the anti-government sentiment of that software engineer, a suicidal terrorist from Texas who burned down his own house, who attacked IRS building in Texas, and suicidal attacker was a public enemy. He was never stopped by FBI, he was never stopped by US armed forces. And I believe that FBI actually should recognize that they didn't investigate a subversive terrorist group who are likely to stand behind him and, to use these suicidal terrorists as a tool of anti-government hatred. And I believe that government should pay more attention, especially federal law enforcement agencies, to subversive terrorist group who prepare and dispatch suicidal terrorists, like a software engineer, suicidal attack. Nowadays, it's possible not only from, let's say, Arab nationalists, Arab terrorists, or Islamic nationalists, but it's possible from American citizens, like those white males even, who are possible to engage in suicidal terrorist attack based on their anti-government, neo-fascist sentiment. I still believe that mental health problems of that software engineer played a significant role in his suicidal attack. I believe that that guy was actually suffered with depression, suffered with sensory deprivation, probably loss of sensual pleasure, loss of sexual pleasure, loss of sensory pleasure, loss of taste, food, probably food was untasted for him. That what triggered his suicidal attack, because it's mostly likely to be triggered by loss of pleasure. Such suicidal attacks are the result of mostly sometimes Philistine severe feelings of loss of sensual pleasure, and sexual pleasure, and sensory deprivation, and loss of taste, especially taste in food. That kind of reasons triggered his homopathic attack. He burned down his own house and attacked the IRS in a suicidal attack. Therefore, there's a reason that mental health problems should be regarded by the government and should be covered by the government exchange insurances, because mental health problems should be treated by psychotherapists. The government should hire psychotherapists, and in order to treat mental health problems of American public, which is goes untreated, turns into suicidal terrorism. Again, I admonish US Congress in order to cater to mental health problems to stop suicidal terrorism.